Okay, welcome everyone to the first day of classes on campus for this semester, for this year. Um, and welcome to Greek and Roman mythology. This is very exciting for me. I've been on campus for a long time. As far as I know, roughly half of you, this is your first year. So welcome to the wonderful world of university. And for the other half, enjoy it while it lasts because it's really awesome. Okay, I'm going to jump in. Who am I and why am I standing in front of you? I'm a classical archaeologist. That means that I like to dig up Roman and Greek stuff. I specialize in early Christian art, so stuff predominantly on sarcophagi, stone coffins, and it's more on the art history and anthropology side of things. But I also do field work. I've done field work across several different countries, most recently in Romania, mostly from the before times, and then done some work in Greece, Canada, and Israel. And also, I guess I forgot to put my name on here. That's really great. My name is Sean. I am a PhD candidate. So what that means is I am not a doctor yet. Some of your emails have addressed me as Dr. McKinnon. Thank you. I would love to be a doctor already. Feel free to call me Dr. McKinnon. That's not a problem. You can call me Mr. McKinnon, although that feels kind of weird. Sean is perfectly fine. Yo, prof, probably a bit too informal, unless we're just in class or out for a drink. Okay, so yeah, Sean McKinnon, classical archaeologist. I am also here to advocate, in addition to this course, teaching you all the wonderful things that I'm going to teach you, I'm advocating for the classics degree as a general idea. You can do all kinds of things in classics, including reading ancient literature that's kind of building on a lot of what this course offers. You learn to read these texts in the original languages, either Latin or Greek or both if you're very skilled. You can delve into philology, which is a lot of history of language and the nuts and bolts of how language works. So you can really investigate how one word changed over centuries and how that has meaning and impact. You can just be a historian. Historians really like to elucidate the ancient world. They like to know what happened, and they use original sources as well as archaeological materials and all these sorts of things. And then you could be an archaeologist. We specialize in material culture, so we look at stuff first. Um, and you can look at art, you can look at coins, you can look at all kinds of wonderful things, ceramics, garbage, always plenty of garbage around. It allows you, regardless of the major or the minor or the honors program, you can travel abroad. So you don't have to be an archaeologist if you want to try an archaeological field school. And we have programs in the department if they allow it, and if you are interested. Currently, our fieldwork is in Greece. Dr. Marguerite Hagsma is the contact there. I don't have her name here, unfortunately. But if you are interested in pursuing a classics minor or a major or an honors, or if you think I'm terrible and you want to complain, Jamie Heilman is the professor that you want to talk to. That's her contact information, and she is a doctor. She's up there. So today's lecture, what are we going to talk about? I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown of what's on the syllabus. So those of you that have already seen the syllabus, you know some, not all, some of what I'm going to talk about. And then I'm going to go into a little bit of historical context to explain some terms and some just some general ideas of what we're going to study and how we're going to study it. And I hope this is going to work here. Just in case anyone has had, can you see the E-class now? Is that no, it hasn't popped up. That's wonderful. Is that the E-class on the screen now, or is that still the PowerPoint? Oh, wonderful. Well, all right. That's just going to have to be. I was going to show you that logging into the E-class, many of you have already done this. You just have to click on a little code of student behavior thing before you can see the material that's in the E-class. It's really easy. It's something that you all have to agree to anyway. I didn't make up these rules. They are part of the University of Alberta Code of Student Behavior that everyone has to adhere to. I just would like to remind you that cheating and plagiarism are probably not the best way forward for you in your education. And so you just click on it and agree to the terms. Right now, the e-class doesn't have a whole lot on it. It will fill out. There will be much more material towards this weekend, and then the entire course will be filled out in the next week or so. So let's jump in. Oh, I finally tell you my name in this one. How to get a hold of me? Email. You can email at sean.mckinnon@ualberta.ca. There's also SN, I think it's snmckin at ualberta.ca. This one I figured was easier. So please do that. My office currently is Tory 206, and that should say 206A. It's a shared office for the current time being. That may change in the near future. I will let you know. And office hours, I won't be having office hours today, but generally speaking, it will be Monday and Wednesday after class. That way you can kind of zerg up to the front. We can walk to the office as we are talking and sit down, or you can just do your own thing and then come after you've had a bite to eat or a coffee or what have you. And I also can do by appointment. And if you don't feel comfortable with in person, we can do Zoom. That's absolutely not a problem. I've become very skilled in the art of Zoom, and you can see my face. All right. So this is kind of the opening lines of the syllabus, the course description and objectives. We are going to do an overview of Greek and Roman mythology. That's kind of self-explanatory from the title of the course. But what does that mean? It means that you're going to learn about gods, heroes, and their exploits. But you will also be introduced to interpreting written and oral storytelling, art and material culture, and the ancient cultural contexts of Greece and Rome. This is kind of the additional stuff. We are not just going to read these texts. We are going to spend time talking about them, thinking about them, and analyzing them. Throughout all of the material that we go through for the course, these three major themes will come up again and again. They will come up because I will say them, and I will say them over and over. Hint, that means it'll probably feature on your tests and quizzes. Recognizing and interpreting cultural values, recognizing and interpreting tropes, literary tropes, themes, and genre, and then critiquing notions of authenticity. Now, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense just saying it, and so I'd like to do a very, very quick interactive here, where we can do these three things, we can talk about these three things in action. If you have a device in front of you, laptop, cell phone, what have you, please go to the short link there, the bit.ly/3mroyxg. It is a very easy, very quick little poll. And do not worry if you don't have a device or your device isn't working, you can't connect. This will not negatively impact your grade at all. This is purely for entertainment value. And it is a poll that asks, what's your favorite Spider-Man? There's a whole variety of Spider-Men out there. And as it stands right now, the poll doesn't go into a huge amount of detail. It just gives you a few options that are broad categories. I had put a link in here so that I could show the poll, but if it's not going to show, maybe if I click to main display when I do it. Let's see. Yeah, open up an Internet Explorer. That's great. Oh dear, that's quite the advertisement. I have an ad blocker on my home computer. I apologize. I did not know that those were on there. So, if we can ignore the bubble butt, what is your favorite Spider-Man? This is purely for to show the poll because I will show you my favorite Spider-Man in a moment. So click on that. We click a vote, and it doesn't do anything. Oh, because it's Internet Explorer, so it's terrible. I gotcha. Hold on. Let's try this again. No, it still didn't work. Ah, there we go. That's what I wanted. All right, so a lot of movie fans here. A lot of movie fans for, I mean, let's just assume the Marvel ones, but maybe the Raimi films are very popular. Everyone loves Pizza Time. But yeah, so overwhelmingly, everyone's in favor of the movies. Cool. That's really cool. I will show you my favorite Spider-Man. So wasn't that fun? But let's take a look at the three themes that we talked about in the syllabus and then analyze what we just saw. I know it's not myth, but superheroes, right? Recognizing and interpreting cultural values. Very obviously, Japan is not the United States. There's some things going on in that TV show that just were not going on in the same character on a contemporary US TV show. And there's a very strong emphasis on preserving aesthetics. Spider-Man looks like Spider-Man, and nothing else is the same. He has guns, he has an alien robot, he has a vengeance debt. Recognizing and interpreting literary tropes, themes, and genre. The Spider-Man TV show from Japan fits into the tokusatsu genre. That's giant monsters, robots, and these sorts of things. I was a big Godzilla fan when I was a kid, and so this fits very nicely into that genre. There's also 100 other subgenres that it fits within, but that is decidedly not the same genre that, let's say, a comic book of Spider-Man or the cartoon or the movies fit into. There's very little in the giant robot, giant monster genre there. And in that we've got some literary tropes of child sidekicks, alien origins. These are things that crop up in this genre. This is a very superficial analysis that I did in 30 seconds. You could do an entire thesis on this if you wanted. And then for the third point, critiquing notions of authenticity. This is not fake Spider-Man. This is not a copy of Spider-Man. This is Spider-Man for a specific group of people. It is the original Spider-Man as far as they're concerned, because that's probably the first one that they were ever exposed to, and that's the one that they grew up with. And so I just want to drive home that it is not inferior. It is not illegitimate. It is a version, and it stands on its own. And as we go through, especially when we transfer from looking at Greek myths to Roman myths or Roman versions of Greek myths, I want you to keep these things in mind, that they are not copies, that they are not, that they're not lesser because it's not an original story, that it is borrowing from another cultural context. There's a very strong emphasis in literature, in my discipline, to look at these Roman things or later Greek versions as somehow lesser because they weren't the first. They weren't the original. Being the first means almost nothing. All it means is you were the first one to write down a particular story, or you were the first one to assemble that story into a particular version. This constant revisioning and shifting is something that we will see throughout all of the myths that we read. And you will very quickly realize that there is no definitive character. Character like Hercules or Heracles. They are not the same in every single story that you've ever heard. They are the version that they are in the version or in the story that they're in. And then it's almost a different character when you look at them in another story by a different author from a different time period. And so arguing over semantics about, oh, you should call him Heracles because that's the original, or things like that. If it's the Greek one, yeah, call him Heracles because that's what the Greeks would have called him. But if it's the Roman one, that's Hercules. Or if in a Roman story they call him Heracles, why might they be doing that? What are they trying to say by using a Greek name in that context? So these are the kinds of things, in addition to just reading fun stories about horrible gods that do terrible things, and fun stuff. We will be asking these questions as we go along. Readings will largely come from the textbook. The textbook is a source book. It's a collection of ancient sources. They're all in English. You will have to do nothing in the original language. Don't worry. And the source book is just it's inexpensive, it's accessible, and that's why I've used it. If for whatever reason you don't want to buy it, or you don't want to use the free copy that your tuition is paid for at the library, you can use the versions online if you can find English translations. There's no absolute mandate that you must be reading this exact version. But keep in mind, I will be using page numbers and citations from this textbook. So you'll just be making it harder on yourself for whatever reason. I mean, go nuts. It's university. You can do kind of whatever you want. Additional texts, and there will be readings beyond this. I will post them all on eClass. You won't have to go and find anything. You won't have to search it for yourself. And it'll either be a link to a website where there's an English translation freely available, or a PDF of material that I've selected. As I mentioned before, class materials, PowerPoints, audio recordings, and readings, all of that's going to be on eClass. So if you miss a class, don't worry about it. It's going to be posted online. And then, as I said, video. So I'm going to combine these slides with the audio that you're hearing right now. That will be posted to YouTube. There's a link to the YouTube channel on the eClass already. This is not a hidden link. This is not a secret link. You're free to share this with your friends if I say something particularly stupid that you want to laugh at. And then accessing eClass. So I just wanted to show you that before. The code of student behavior, you just have to click that you understand. And please actually read it. It's important. COVID-19. We are still in the midst of a pandemic. Everyone is masked that I can see. This is fantastic. That is policy. And that is now not just university policy, it's actually bylaw as of Friday for the city. Traditionally, I'm a big stickler for attendance. I want people here because I enjoy this. This is my fun, being able to see people and interact with them. But that's just not the way to do things in the midst of a pandemic. If you're not feeling well, don't come in, please. For your safety, for the safety of those around you. That's why I'm posting these things. This is the first time that I'm posting things to YouTube. That's why I'm posting these things, is so that you do not have to be in danger in order to learn. There's no reason for you to be in danger, for your loved ones to be in danger to learn. If you are not fully vaccinated, university policy is that you have to submit to rapid testing. That's the university, that's not me. I just wanted to let you know, though, that there are currently about 2,500 active cases in Edmonton. And this is actually two age groups that I've combined together. That's why there's a range there. For 15 to 24-year-olds, only 55 to 60% are fully vaccinated. So that's a substantial minority of folks roughly in your age bracket. I was an adult student, so I always hated when profs would point it and say, you're only 17, but I was not. But regardless, roughly in your age bracket, roughly 40% are not vaccinated. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you wish to get your vaccination, you can follow that link and get your vaccination right here on campus. Okay, let's hop down. Time's running out. Assignment breakdown. Cool. Okay. Yeah, so the participation. That poll that I just did, some version of that. I'm going to do those things periodically throughout the term. It's a very easy way. You don't have to put your hand up. You don't have to, I don't know, it can be a very nerve-wracking experience. I know I'm terrifying. So if you want to participate, but you don't necessarily want to speak in class, those kinds of polls, Additionally, if you email me questions, come to the office hours. Just keep eye contact the entire time. Don't fall asleep in the lectures. This is the kind of participation that I'm talking about. I'm not asking you to do overly much. You don't get more points if you talk every single class. It's just be here, be present, and try and enjoy yourself as much as I'm trying to enjoy myself. And that 5% is basically free. And if you are unable to attend because of illness, we've got email contact and um, Zoom-based office hours and that sort of thing as well. Just you can email me if you've just been for a very long time been unable to attend, but you're keeping up with the lecture material. Um, Lines of communication are always open, and that is for the best for everybody. There will be e-class quizzes. These will be quizzes you complete online through e-class. They're open book. They're not timed. It's based on the readings. I would prefer if you do the readings first and then take the quiz. But if all you do is look at the quiz and then mine the readings for the answers, sure, you at least looked at the readings. That's kind of as close as I can get. These quizzes will not be timed. Yeah, they're open, they're not timed. You only get to do your answers once. So there's that. But they and they'll be open for the week. So they will open up on Sundays and they will close on Saturdays. And then that's it. Okay. The midterm and the final. Those dates are the dates, but the faculty just dropped a bomb on us yesterday that they said anyone who is doing any kind of accommodation for an exam, a midterm or a final, will not be administered through accommodation services. It will be done online through eClass or horribly invasive technology that I refuse to use. With that in mind, I may actually switch the midterm and the final to be online for everybody. I haven't decided. Please be patient with me. I guarantee you my choice will be the best that I can do for you. I have no desire to trick you. I have no desire to make this harder. But I will say, if it does go online, the questions will involve a lot more thinking. The questions will not be simple retention of names and slotting things in. It will require you to follow those three things that we talked about and kind of do some interpretation and writing. So more information will follow. The day before class, changing fundamental aspects of the course was a bit much for me to handle last minute. You will also have a term paper. The term paper will not be research-based. Don't worry about having to do massive amounts of research, but it will focus on those three key themes. Generally, I haven't designed it exactly yet, but you will have a choice of 5 different questions, and it will almost certainly be taking a popular piece of media, whether that is a movie, a TV show, maybe a piece of art, that will have a myth in it, or elements of myth that I want you to talk about. And then you will do a comparison with some myths that we've looked at, some stories that we looked at, and write your thoughts. So it will be largely based on your capability and capacity to take what I've taught you and then write your own material on your own thoughts. Okay, this is actually going a lot slower than I thought. So apologies for that. Fridays are a little fun. I want you to come in on Fridays. I want you to see and hang out. So we're gonna have creature feature. Start of every class, 5 or 10 minutes I'm gonna spend talking about a monster. I like monsters. As I mentioned, I like Godzilla movies when I was a kid. So Jason and the Argonauts and Clash of the Titans, these were my introduction to myth as a kid. This will be a feature. These will feature on your quizzes or on your tests as well, and it will be largely simple questions asking, what is this monster associated with? Whose myth or whose characters and that sort of thing. And it'll all be covered in the creature feature. That'll just be part of the regular lecture. It won't be a separate file. It won't be a separate thing. It's just a fun thing that I want to do on Fridays. That being said, we're not doing it tomorrow. This week is kind of weird. Tomorrow we are actually doing mostly library orientation. So a librarian from Rutherford is coming in and going to explain to you how to use our library resources. This is very, very valuable. I want to get to you early in your program so that you make usage of the library throughout your university degree. And just to let you know, the course is going to proceed chronologically, but the creature features, I don't think I'll be able to stick to that strictly. So they will jump around. I'll do some early Greek stuff, some Hellenistic stuff, and some Roman stuff, and it'll jump around. But there no medieval monsters, no Renaissance stuff, and nothing modern. So for those fans of the Kraken, there shall be no Kraken. This is the class schedule. It doesn't look very fleshed out. This is a kind of a guide to give you an idea of the themes and topics that we'll be doing week by week. So this week is the introduction that I've been doing, and then the library orientation on Friday. Next week we'll do some Greek creation myths and Firstborn and Titans. So we'll really kind of dive in. I don't want to go through this list. You can read this on the syllabus yourself. Just to give you an idea of the general structure we will be following. Roughly half the course will be focused on the Greek world, and then the second half of the course will be focused on the Roman world, and then the Hellenistic world kind of in between as a transition. In these terms, I'll you have a question? Will the final be from the very beginning of class or from the mid? So the final will be cumulative, but it will be heavily weighted towards the end of term. So you can't just dump all the Greek stuff that you learned, but you don't have to focus on it. You don't have to keep everything top of mind. I am not a huge stickler for getting you on exact names and exact dates. I am much more not that you don't have to know anything. You do have to know some names and some dates, but I'm much more interested that you understand relatively who comes before who, why that matters, and how it fits into the overall themes and structures of the course that we're doing. Okay, I've only got 8 minutes left, so I'm going to burn through the rest of this. What is mythology? It comes from 2 Greek words, mythos and legos. It's a story to tell or storytelling. So mythology in its simplest form is storytelling. All of the myths that we have today from Greek and Roman times originated as oral traditions. Those oral traditions were passed from person to person using verse and meter as mnemonic devices, ways of remembering. That's the kind of reason for the popularity and spread of traveling poets in the Greek world, rhapsodes. Written versions come later because you have to invent writing. Written versions take oral traditions that exist and go off in their own direction. Oral traditions continue. It's very important to remember that. We do not drop oral transmission the minute writing is invented. But written versions, because they standardize, have an impact on the oral tradition and on other written traditions. So myths exist as oral traditions, written traditions, and also as visual representations. I briefly flashed this cup and this inscription earlier in the slides, and I just want to go into it a little bit here. This is called Nestor's Cup, and it is some of the earliest Greek writing that we have, and it was found off the coast of Italy. The cup is reconstructed is on the left, and that's still the left up there. And then the inscription, which is an archaic form of Greek, and it's read backwards. It's all kinds of crazy on the right. And it comes out to, I am the cup of Nestor, good for drinking. Whoever drinks from this cup, desire for beautifully crowned Aphrodite will seize him instantly. Like so many things in ancient writing, it's kind of dirty. And it's about having fun and drinking. Nestor is a character in the Iliad, which is possibly the most famous piece of writing on myth that we have. These 6 lines here, I'm not going to read it out to you, but just to say there's nothing about the drinking cup or Aphrodite in here. Nestor's cup has taken this character. It's obvious that there's some oral tradition that Nestor is associated, this cup is associated with drinking, revelry, and sexual prowess. And it's diverged away from this story. So I just want to give you this baseline that when we read these myths, when we look at this material, Each one is kind of its own version and it lives in its own world, related to all the other versions that came before it, but not identical. So we're never seeking the pure story or the pure myth because there isn't one. Just want to really hammer that home. So, if myth is storytelling, what isn't myth? And that's kind of impossible to say because gods and heroes and stories about them permeate all facets of the Greek and Roman world. There are very broad intersections on just writing a story, artistic productions, religion, history, and politics. That's not very helpful for a class, so I will let you know that we will focus on written works. So that's the textbook. There's plays in there, there's histories, genealogies, odes, and poems. I love art, so we will look at art. And that will feature gods, goddesses, and heroes, and the monsters they attack. And then there will be some diversions into politics, architecture, and ritual and cult, and Greek and Roman religion. This course will not focus on those things, but from time to time I will mention them. Really running out of time. I am going to, I'll do this slide and I think I'm just gonna stop because I don't wanna jump too far, too fast. Just a note on dating. BC and AD is the kind of common everyday dating system that almost everyone, I believe, is familiar with. I'm not sure what the high school curriculum is these days. BCE and CE means exactly the same thing in terms of dates. It's just a slightly different spin on it. In AD, that's Anno Domini, means year of our Lord. BCE and CE, that means common era, or I often say Christian era because there's no avoiding the fact that this is a dating system based on the birth of Jesus, or at least the belief in the birth of Jesus. But a lot of people, especially scholars, don't necessarily want to say in the year of our Lord when they're writing out material. But just so you know, I will focus. I tend to use BCE and CE. Your literature will almost always use BC and AD. I'm sorry for the confusion. I am the way I am, and I can't really change. But also be wary of ordinal numbering. That's when I say 5th century, 4th century, 10th century, anything like that. The 5th century BCE goes from 499 down to 400. So even though it's the 5th century, it's the 400s. And those numbers go down in BC or BCE. And then if they're in AD or CE, those numbers go up. So the 5th century AD goes from 400 to 499. Make sense? Okay, yeah, I've got like 2 minutes, so we're going to skip the introduction to the Greek and Roman worlds. If you have any questions, feel free to come on up. Otherwise, I will see you on Friday for the library orientation.